Happy Sunday, my friends. It is Storytime Sunday. And Storytime Sunday was birthed from a couple different things. These are things that I talk about with a lot of other women, whether it is my friends or in women's circles or the Redefining Healthy Initiative or at retreats. And in my one-on-one coaching, we talk a lot about the stories that we tell ourselves. And within the last couple weeks, I had a friend that, she sent me a text message. She was working through one of her stories. It was actually Amber. And if you go back to the Sex and Pleasure Storytime Sunday, that was her. So she helped give me the idea for this series. And she said, she sent me a text and she was like, hi. She was like, here, a story about my story. I got such a kick out of it. And then a couple days later, I had another friend that sent me a message on Instagram, and she had recommended a book. She saw that I had gotten the book a couple days before, and she sent me this message, and she was like, hey, I wanted to ask you if you had started this book, but here are my thoughts. Like, this is what I thought you were going to think or say upon my message. And she told me like all of the stories she told herself about messaging me. And I thought, this is how I want to have all of my conversations. So with that being said, that's also something that we are talking about in Women's Circle. There's one this evening at 7:00 and then one Eastern and one Tuesday at noon. And we're going to be talking about how to have uncomfortable conversations and how to create safe spaces and how to find safe spaces to have these uncomfortable conversations, and what to do if someone makes you uncomfortable in a conversation. So Storytime Sunday is the hidden mechanisms that create unhappiness, frustration, anxiety, depression, difficulty changing habits. All of these different things are wrapped up in the stories that we tell ourselves, and too few people know that this is what's happening, even though we're all doing it all day, every day. So Storytime Sunday, this is a series of women sharing their stories, about their stories and how we are reclaiming our power and becoming cycle breakers. So today, I had really thought about this week, and I took a break from my content for the last week to in support of the Amplified Melanated Voices movement, and it was a good break. And I've done a lot of research on my own and a lot of reading, and I cleaned up my friends list and I've cleaned up my feed on Instagram and Facebook and really started following a lot of powerful women. So I'll be bringing a lot more of that to you. And also this week in my counseling session, because I still regularly go to counseling and I still maintain teachers and coaches, and I believe that every single person should always be working with a counselor or a coach or a teacher. And this week in counseling, we were having a discussion about, I actually brought up Storytime Sunday because there was something that had happened after one of them. And, he asked me a great question because we talked about some painful things. And he said, well, how did you break this cycle? Like, how did you change the story? And the painful things that we were talking about involved a lot of hurt, both from myself and from other people. And I said, that's a really great question. And as I sat there thinking about it, mindfulness is a simple answer, but the truth is, and I said, I learned how to blame in a healthy and productive way. And he was like, tell me more. And I shared, because in week 1 of the Redefining Healthy Initiative, in our group discussion, we talk about the 7 mind traps. And I'm always like, I do not hold back in saying, like, I am not here to fix you because I don't think you're broken. And I'm not here as an authority on anything, but rather a guide, kind of sharing how I have messed things up and how I have figured them out and what I'm still working on and what I'm still working through. And one of the mind traps, the 7th mind trap that we talk about, is blaming. So it made sense, as I was working through this and another round, a new fresh round in the Redefining Healthy Initiative, I'm like, okay, blame, like that's where I found my answer when he asked me, because at first I was like, I don't know how I got to this point. And then I realized that's it. It was blaming. I learned how to blame in a healthy way. And it's a double-edged sword, right? So there were a lot of painful experiences in my life that I blamed myself for, right? Either I put myself in that position, or I stay too long, or I drink too much, and I blamed myself, which was not healthy because it also was not true. And then there's also the other flip side of it. So some of my pain and some of my painful experiences that did in fact shape my relationship with myself and how I felt about myself, which caused a lot of further damage, I overblamed. Not necessarily overblamed, that's probably not a great way to put it, but I blamed in a way that also gave away all of my power. So I blamed in a way that said, you hurt me deeply and you broke me and you're going to have to fix this. So I gave away all of my power. So either way, right? Either way, where I blamed myself unfairly, or when I blamed others in a way that said, this is your fault. You hurt me deeply. I need you to fix it. I gave away all of my power. So how I came out of these painful experiences in a way that allowed me empowerment through empathy, right, was blaming in a healthy way. And one way that I always say this to myself is, it explains it, but it doesn't excuse it, right? So I understand a lot of the people in my life that have hurt me. I understand why. I understand where they were in their life, or how our interactions with each other led them to this point. It explains it, but it doesn't excuse it, right? And the same reasoning for, myself when I blamed myself in an unhealthy way. So what that is to say, when learning to blame in a healthy and productive way, you have to understand that your pain is 100% real. No matter what anyone tells you, they don't get to say, no, that's not what I meant, or no, you shouldn't take it that way, or any of these things. And that's something that I'm seeing pretty significantly right now when Black people, people of color, Indigenous people are sharing their experiences, and other people are saying, no, that's not right. That's not what we meant. You shouldn't feel that way, right? So that's not blame in a healthy way. Blaming and understanding that your pain is 100% real, that those experiences are valid, that people, experiences, and our society very often hurts us deeply. And it is right and just to lay blame most of the time. We can't hold other people responsible for our pain, and we can't hold ourselves responsible for other people's pain, and certainly not in a way that gives away our power or takes away the power of another person. I always say, when we're talking about, like in our self-love week, we talk a lot about reparenting ourselves and how these experiences shaped the voice inside. And I always say, the knife that cut us cannot also sew us up. And a lot of times when we are laying blame, and I did this for a really long time, when I laid blame outside of myself, whether I said, oh, it was the person that I was dating, right, or married to, or my parents, or it was, my toxic friends, or it was my toxic this. I really liked to use that word a lot, right? And it's a hard gut check when you sit down and say, okay, I'm going to look at this experience and this blame from a mindful perspective with great awareness, like beginner's mind. I'm going to leave all of the other stuff to the side, and I'm really going to look at this. And I can blame this person. I can understand. I can explain. This is what happened, and this is where the pain came from. It doesn't excuse it. It explains it. And then I take all of my power, all of it. I reclaim all of my power, and I take 100% responsibility for how I choose to heal, for how I choose to engage in my life, for how I choose to move forward with these experiences and this pain and these people. And it's a hard lesson to learn. Blaming in a healthy, productive way is so important, because we do have to understand and validate ourselves. We don't need other people to do it. That's a hard lesson to learn. I have in my lifetime had to learn to accept a lot of apologies that I will never actually get. And you still will learn that you are reclaiming your power. Like, I'm taking all of my power back, right? I have 100% responsibility for healing, for moving forward, for how I choose to engage with the people, the experiences, and the things that have maybe hurt me in the past, and learning what to do with them and learning how to move forward and taking full responsibility. Check on those things that you often ruminate on, or the things that have been happening in your life, and really sit with it. One, make sure that you validate yourself, because whatever that pain is, it is real and it is valid, and nobody else gets to say that it is not. And then check in. How do I explain this, right? How do I blame in a way that explains this is where this pain came from, really way down in the roots of it, right? Way down in the roots. And then how do I take full responsibility right now? Reclaim all of your power. Take 100% responsibility. Even though the wounds are not your fault, your healing is. Your healing is still your responsibility. I hope that this message finds you well, and I hope that also you take from that in validating other people's pain when and as you're hearing it and seeing it very loudly and very out in the open. Make sure that you are not invalidating somebody else's experience and pain. So I hope this Storytime Sunday finds you well, and I'm really happy that you needed this right now, and it is hitting you and where you needed to hear it. So there's a women's circle tonight at 7 and Tuesday at noon Eastern time, and I would be happy to send you a link if you would like to join. We will be having great discussions, and the next Redefining Healthy Initiatives kicks off June 28th. So we have a group going right now, and we will start to overlap them, which will be really fun, because we've been having a lot of really great discussions, and our Facebook group is having fun being able to talk to each other and share these experiences and activities as we go through. I will be back on Tuesday for Tool Quit Tuesday, and the following Sunday for Storytime Sunday. Can't wait to see you all.